Hold on. Oh, think we got it. Hey, look at that. Sound. Hi. Well-oiled machine here. The Toronto Blue Jays have a win against Baltimore. Who knew? Plus, we'll get into some baseball trade talk. And hey, remember the NBA and NHL off seasons? We'll try to get those up and running. Again, Couch Potato Diary. We're live, obviously, and it starts right now. Nailed the open. Welcome, everyone. Peter Klein with you guys here. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I know we said yesterday we'd be doing this at 10, but I thought with the Jays game, and then I had some running around to do. We'll just wait for that game to wrap up. But we're here now, and as always, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca. We got this here, the running around. Had to do with some new stuff coming from Sea of Dead. So check us out, seaofdead403.ca. The episode also powered by Swift Energy. Head over to swiftenergy.gg. Use that code PK Primetime for the 25% off of your next order, whether it's working on games, whether you're going to be watching some fights, some baseball. We got some football to watch. We got a long weekend of wrestling ahead of us. You're going to need a little bit of an energy boost and a little bit more focus. Head over to swiftenergy.gg and use the code PK Primetime for the 25% off. And for everyone who is tuning in, yes, Deeds, not only do we have sound, we have links being sent out to everyone, putting the link to Swift Energy off in the chat right now if you guys want to check out a little bit of Swift Energy for you here today. So what is coming up on the show? Well, we are going to look at the Toronto Blue Jays and a win against Baltimore, finally, plus a trade. Finally. And we will get into a little bit of hockey talk. We got some Flames to discuss as well. So a lot to get to on this show today. If you are watching live, any of the chats, you can send a message in there. And my chat thing was being a little bit weird. The system I was using to see all the different chats wasn't showing any of them. So apologies that I've missed a few over the last little bit. So hopefully I have it fixed. Hopefully we are not too laggy. And hopefully we enjoy the show. So let's get in and start talking about the Toronto Blue Jays as they pick up a desperately needed win over the Baltimore Orioles. So, that series didn't go the way the Blue Jays wanted to at all, as Toronto loses a bunch to the Baltimore Orioles before closing out what looked like it was going to be a bit of a convincing victory, and then required a big save from Jeff Hoffman to do so. But Toronto salvages a game out of the 4 games in 3 days out in Baltimore. So, on the one hand, you don't want to overreact. They have been playing so well against very good teams. Having a bit of a stumble against a team like Baltimore is frustrating, but it's not one that I think you need to overreact to. And it's not, okay, well, I guess they should just trade Bichette and just build for next year. This is still a playoff caliber baseball team, but it is also certainly a series that shines a spotlight on some issues that this team has. On the upside, you love how they kept battling, and specifically with the bats, even with no Kirk and Springer in the lineup, this Blue Jays team continued to pick up big hit after big hit, especially in this finale. Lo Perfido was basically on base the entire game. You had Miles Straw come up with a couple of big hits. Ernie Clement had a 2-hit game, although kind of making up for a bit of a struggle defensively. Sanchez almost had a home run, but Cedric Mullins made one of the catches of the year in the non-Canadian division, as he absolutely robs a home run. So it was nice to see some of the bats step up. Then you get Vlad, again, a couple of situations where maybe you would have liked to see a bigger production, but he gets the single that helps to tie the game at one point, and Bo Bichette came up with a couple of, well, it looked like he was going to come up with a sac fly, and then Ernie Clement gets gunned down at home plate, but still, overall, you like the contributions of everyone on the offensive side. The obvious concern is in the bullpen. Yair Rodriguez got thumped in this game, a day after Chad Green got thumped and then dumped as he gets DFA'd. it was not the best series for Toronto's bullpen, and it really did highlight what they need in the trade market. And we'll get to the trade that they made in a second. The always popular just walk across the diamond trade in the middle of a doubleheader. But this really did show just exactly why the bullpen is a desperate, desperate need for this ball club. And a couple of the guys who at different points you have trusted with leverage situations, neither of them show up in any sort of a meaningful way, or at least positive way. It was very meaningful, but just remarkably negative. So this one, again, it feels like every series we're saying this, it really is showing how desperate the situation is for the Blue Jays. We'll talk about another problem that kind of crept in for the Jays in just a second, but I do want to ask if those of you, if you're watching live or a little bit later on, if you could share this video with your friends and then a couple of people who you don't really like, just to throw them off a little bit. That would be great. Help spread the word of Couch Potato Diary across to all of your friends. So the other issue that I find the Blue Jays have is starting to creep up a little bit. Barrios might be becoming a bit of a problem. Going into this start, which didn't go well, he had an ERA over 6, and that is factoring in a one-run appearance against the White Sox, who are the White Sox. So this is starting to become a bit of a situation. Like, Gausman is looking like an ace again for the most part. Bassett, though, had a tough outing. And again, it's one series, you don't want to overreact, but this is a month now of Barrios kind of getting thumped. And so while I don't think bullpen is the biggest need for the Toronto Blue Jays, I don't think starting pitching is as big of a need as the bullpen is. I do think that there is still a need to go out and acquire a pretty good starter. Do you have to go out and get an ace? I don't think so. Do you need to go out and get someone who will start for you in a playoff series? I do think so at this point. I don't want to... it feels like you are relying on best case scenario in a lot of cases, and I don't love having to do that. So I think this Blue Jays team does need to be in a spot where they can go out and kind of have some flexibility in the starting pitching world when it comes to the postseason. So we will see if the Blue Jays are able to do that. But I certainly have at least a couple of concerns now coming off of what we just saw. Going into the YouTube chat, Deeds is hanging out in there today on the construction site. Deeds saying, I would love if the Blue Jays grabbed one more bullpen arm before the trade deadline. It certainly sounds like they will. I forget who it was tweeting out, like, this is not going to be the only move that the Blue Jays make. This is going to be a pretty busy time for the Blue Jays adding arms in that bullpen. So we will see what kind of comes of it, but I would agree with you, Deeds. Like, that feels like number one on the checklist. And they already make a move, we'll talk about it in a second, but it feels like it needs to be a little bit more now for this team to make that real push in October. If we want to keep talking Blue Jays, we can in the chat. We are going to move on. I guess not entirely away from Blue Jays because we're going to talk about the trade here. But whatever you want to talk about in the chat, you can fire those away. And if you're watching afterward, feel free to answer a couple questions in the comments, and we will try to get back to you. A reminder, if you missed this live, or just want to take Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you may go, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, whatever tickles your fancy. Podcast-wise, we are there, sharing the link in the chat for Spotify, but it's not just Spotify. It is not just the fine folks over at Apple. It is everywhere you get your podcasts. So again, the Toronto Blue Jays making a desperately needed move in acquiring Seranthony Domínguez, who walks his way from one side of Camden Yards to the other to help out with the Blue Jays in a big-time way. So let's talk about this trade that the Blue Jays desperately needed and why I think it's actually a very, very good move for Toronto. The Toronto Blue Jays, for weeks, if not months, if not years, have needed to add to the bullpen. And they finally do in a meaningful way in the middle of a doubleheader against the Orioles as they acquire Seranthony Domínguez from the Baltimore Orioles for their 10th ranked prospect. overall, this does feel like it is a bit of a steep price to pay for a bullpen arm, but I'm willing to pay it if I am the Toronto Blue Jays. This is the exact type of leverage reliever that this team needs. So if it's a slight overpay, it's fine. I will take my chances on the kid that they traded turning into the next Clayton Kershaw if Domínguez can get strikeouts in the 7th, 8th, and 9th of a playoff game. That's just where the Blue Jays are at. These are the types of moves that you make when you feel like you are a contender. I have zero issue with the Blue Jays making this move. He has the exact stuff that this bullpen, I think, desperately needs. And you could see it against Baltimore in the game this afternoon. Not the doubleheader game, but the game following on kind of getaway day for Toronto. The at-bats that the Orioles were having, none of them looked comfortable at all. Domínguez, there was great movement there. He has fantastic swing and miss stuff. He comes with playoff experience. He has pitched in 17 career playoff games, I believe. So this is someone who absolutely has the type of stuff that causes problems for teams in the playoffs, and he has the exact type of stuff that this Blue Jays team absolutely needed. I think this is a home run deal for the Toronto Blue Jays, personally. And I get, again, you give up the 10th ranked prospect in your system for a guy who maybe isn't even going to close a single game for you, although like he probably will now. But there are just times where you have to make these moves, and this is one of those times. And now to get another leverage reliever that you can go to and feel very comfortable with, to go with him in the 8th, go with Hoffman in the 9th, that feels like you are now starting to shorten these games. The walks will frustrate you at times with Domínguez. There's no question about that. But again, I cannot stress enough that this is the type of arm that they needed. And now, to Deeds' point in the chat, this can't be the only move that this team makes, all right? Like, this cannot be the, okay, well, we didn't get everything, but at least we got Domínguez, right? Like, this needs to be a part of the package, not necessarily the whole thing. So, honestly, I don't even think I want it to be the Blue Jays' biggest move. If it is, it's probably fine, because it's a strong move, but there needs to be at least one more arm coming with him into the bullpen. I would still love another bat so that Leo Jimenez isn't pinch hitting in the 7th inning of games against the division rival. That would be absolutely lovely. And as mentioned before, with Barrios having a bit of a speed wobble, Scherzer, you never know. I think the Blue Jays do need at least one more starter and one more quality starter in that rotation. So there is still work to do for a Blue Jays team that has at least at one point sat atop Major League Baseball and still sits in first place in the American League East. So it's going to be a fun next 24 hours around these parts, paying attention to what happens with the Toronto Blue Jays. Make sure to keep it locked on all my social medias. I am at Primetime Klein on X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those, to keep updated on everything happening here on Couch Potato Diary. Again, if you have any more baseball thoughts, fire them away in the chat. We can definitely get to them as we go on. Like I said before, I was having a bit of trouble with the system I was using for the chat, but looks like it's been resolved now. So anything you ask in there, I will 100% answer if I see it, and we will get to it. Maybe not in the exact moment, because I have a bit of a rundown. It may not seem like it, but I do have something here. So we will get to it though at some point. I know some people or a lot of people know me from covering the Calgary Flames, and they made a move today, signing Martin Pospisil to a contract extension that kind of seems like a win-win. So let's talk about the latest deal for an intriguing player on the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames have locked in Martin Pospisil to a 3-year contract extension worth $2.5 million a season. I like this move quite a bit for the Flames. I think that this is someone who actually has a pretty high ceiling and has a relatively safe floor if you're going to be making a move like this. The floor is 4th line energy guy with some speed and toughness. And now, if that is really all that he is, 2.5 a year becomes a touch rich for that. But still an effective player, and given the way the salary cap is going to go up, I hate using that as an excuse for a contract, but I think in this case 2.5 is going to become a little bit less detrimental as everything goes along, and so you will take that given that there is a pretty substantial upside for the player, because I do think that the ceiling for this kid is a top 6 winger who has just a bomb of a shot, plays a hard-nosed style, and plays a style that you would assume would carry into postseason play very effectively. So I feel like you are fine gambling on the upside here and having the floor of this guy's going to be an energy player on your fourth line who can help make a difference on a hockey team. I'm okay giving that 3 years and a $2.5 million extension. I like that quite a bit from a Calgary Flames standpoint. And so for a team that is in a bit of a rebuild or retool or whatever you want to call it, but for a team that is going to be testing out a lot of young players over the next little bit, I like rewarding a kid who tested and passed a lot of the tests as he kind of went along. We will get into why I'm so interested in this player in just a second, but I do want to draw your attention to the tip jar that we have here with Couch Potato Diary. It is either in the description of whatever you're consuming, or there are panels on Twitch and Kick as well. Just, help the treat habits for my cats a little bit. There is a link in the description, and again, in panel form. It is not required, not expected even a little bit, would be appreciated though. So, why is Martin Pospisil so interesting for the Calgary Flames? He was very good a couple of seasons ago, and at that time, I kind of admitted, I didn't think there was much of a ceiling for this particular player. I thought that he was going to be kind of bottom 6 energy guy, right? He could be kind of crash, bang, boom, go out there, be tough, do all those things, and then, maybe something happens. But to see him be an effective player in a top 6 role was very intriguing to me. And so, yes, he falls off a little bit last year, but there was quite a bit going on there, right? They were testing him at center for a little while, figuring out a lot of different things in the lineup. And so it does kind of feel like when you are looking at potential players that could kind of break out a little bit, it feels like he is getting forgotten about. When it comes to those types of discussions here with the Flames. And I don't think he's going to break out and all of a sudden have 100 points. But I do think that he doesn't seem to get the same benefit of the doubt as others would, because what we saw last year honestly was kind of where I thought he was going to be. So when you think about guys who could break out, you ignore that first breakout season and just look at kind of what the confirmation bias would be, basically. I do think there is a little bit more there for this kid, though. And I do think that maybe we don't try him at center again. Let him just figure his life out over on the wing and really turn into the type of Martin Pospisil that he really can. I think that there is, like I said before, I think there's a pretty high ceiling on this kid. So I am at least intrigued to see where Martin Pospisil goes from here. And I think he is someone that just when we're talking about guys, not the superstars that the Flames need, but when we are talking about guys that have an opportunity to level up a little bit, don't forget about Martin Pospisil when having that conversation. In the live chat, Deeds, the 3-year signing with the new CBA is kind of the new bridge contract. It is a good signing to see what Marty will possibly become. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Deeds. It's a bridge contract. It's 3 years. It is not a substantial amount of money by any stretch of the imagination, and it becomes easier to deal with as the salary cap goes up. Again, hate using that as a reasoning, but that is the fact. And to be able to bet on this kid and kind of see where that talent is, where that potential can take you, no problem with this type of a contract, even a little bit. Like I said, the floor is maybe a little bit lower than you would want to pay $2.5 million to, but the ceiling is this kid ends up being a bargain. And the Flames, this kid has the ceiling, at least, that the Flames on the next contract may have to pay him twice as much as this per season. I don't know if I would bet on that, but I would come to expect that by the time this deal is done, this ends up being a bargain for the Flames. Maybe not a gigantic one, but I do think by the end of it, he will be underpaid by this team and looking for a bit of a raise at the end of this contract. That's at least where I think he is going to end up. So we will see where we will see where this one kind of goes with him. But I like this one absolutely for the Calgary Flames. Like I said, a lot of people know me from covering the Calgary Flames, but if you are a Calgary sports fan who knows me from the radio, you'll know wrestling is a passion of mine. You can also see a wrestling mask, a sumo wrestler, and a Mexican championship belt behind me, so you probably picked up on that. So, if you are here hanging out with me just for the wrestling, or if you just want to hear me talk about wrestling, there is a new wrestling podcast from Couch Potato Diary. It is called Living Room Lariat. It is going to have all the wrestling content from Couch Potato Diary with some exclusive breakdowns not available on the flagship podcast. So make sure you find Living Room Lariat wherever you get your podcasts. We got Toxic in the chat as well. Hello, Toxic. He is messaging back in about the Blue Jays deal. Seranthony Domínguez is such a major upgrade over Chad Green. I could not agree more. If you are just looking at it at that way, and really, I mean, he's taking his spot in the bullpen, so yeah, 100%. That is a gigantic upgrade when you are looking at what Chad Green was giving this team and the problems that he was having. I will take Domínguez there. That is a massive upgrade. And it is just like, to think about the confidence I would have going into the going into the 8th and ninth inning, where you have Domínguez and Hoffman at the back part of that to be able to go up against whoever you might be playing in the postseason. I feel so much more comfortable about that than Chad Green, where you're just like, really? Can we? Okay, okay, fine, whatever, works. So I feel pretty good about where that one is at. I completely agree with you on that, Toxic, and thanks for hanging out in the chat again today. We have AJ Drew ID, or Druid. AJ Druid, that makes more sense. In the chat, saying Martin Pospisil is a good player at center and winger for the Flames. I love this signing. That is the thing. Like I was saying, hey, let's work on him on the wing. Realistically, I do think like they have given him a couple of looks at center, and he has had those at World Hockey Championships and things like that. There is a world where that works, right? And so when you are looking at what this season is for the Flames, kind of talked about it last year, things ended up going really well. This time for Calgary, it is figuring out who is going to be a part of the next good Calgary Flames teams. With all due respect to what's happening now, that is to figure out like where everyone fits. And so when you are not necessarily worried about wins and losses, it's okay to just try stuff. And so I don't mind if you want to give Pospisil another opportunity at center. I think he is more effective at the wing, but boy howdy does life get a little bit easier if he just works as a center iceman on the team. You can never have too many centers, right? So if you can turn him into at least a somewhat viable option in the faceoff dot, then all of a sudden that contract becomes a whole lot more of a win than the dub that I already think Craig Conroy has taken with this one. So I absolutely would agree with you there, AJ, that this is 100% a smart, a very good signing, I guess, from the Calgary Flames. We can keep talking about hockey in the chat, by all means. Keep firing those ones away. We are going to have a little bit more hockey talk coming up in just a second, but we are going to move into the world of the NBA. As remember, the offseason's still happening, although things have slowed down. There are still a few interesting options out there in free agency, and so going to look now at the best fits in NHL and NBA free agency. We'll get to the hockey in a second, but let's tip things off with NBA, the best fits for the best remaining free agents in the association. The NBA's offseason has slowed to a crawl, but that doesn't mean there aren't still some good players who are available. We're going to look at the 5 best players, or at least most intriguing players, that are available in NBA free agency and see where they might fit across the league. So we will start at number 5, DeAnthony Melton. Basically every available free agent, it's going to be, oh, well, the Lakers need some depth. And hey, this guy can score. Golden State needs him. And the Warriors took a shot on Melton as a free agent. He ends up getting hurt, so that obviously didn't work. If he goes there again, I think that actually makes a ton of sense. But one team I could see him going to is the Brooklyn Nets. I think that Melton could really benefit from going to a team that has a little bit less expectations and a team that has a lot of touches available to it. Have him go there, really show out. He could be a very valuable trade asset come deadline time, but he could be someone just to prove that he's back from injury, prove that everything's okay. Go to the Brooklyn Nets, compete your ass off on that team, and put together a pretty good run. With them, get traded to a contender in January, February, and make a push there. Gary Payton II is my next one. He has always found his best work with the Golden State Warriors. Holy hell, do I think this guy would be a great fit with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He screams Timberwolf to me, right? Like, they have that type of identity. I think he could fit with them very, very effectively. So I think that really would make them an interesting ball club. Not that they aren't already. At 3, Amir Coffey. You're seeing a lot of Knicks people kind of piecing a few things together to see if Coffey would work on New York's bench. And yes, like that would be an excellent fit. The one that I went with is the Orlando Magic. He's not the best defender, so it doesn't fit that identity nearly as well as he does in a couple of, or as a few other players might. But just going out and getting Bane doesn't fix every scoring issue they have. To be able to have Amir Coffey come off the bench, knock down a few threes, and just kind of spread that scoring love out a little bit, I think would make a very intriguing option there for the Orlando Magic. At number 2, Russell Westbrook. There's a lot of signs pointing to him signing with the Sacramento Kings. I think that would be a mistake on both sides. I think that given the turmoil around the organization in Sacramento, that feels like the type of unstructured environment that does not do well for Russell Westbrook. And I feel like the Kings, I just don't think it makes sense. And for Westbrook, the best fit is still in Denver. And I know that they've made a couple of moves and really improved that basketball team this year. I love the moves that Denver has made. I still think that there is a value in having Russell Westbrook on this team to give them at least a few more professional minutes, as well as Westbrook can do. But I just think that the best version of him comes out in Denver. And at number 1, Al Horford. It is going to be weird to see him outside of Boston, but look, hear me out. Atlanta's building a pretty fun thing, and Horford has a history there. He's not chasing a ring anymore. Why not go back home to put a bow on this thing? If we're not going to go to Boston, why not go to Atlanta to kind of close things out in a really fun, entertaining way? So I think that him going to Atlanta, I think that there is a need for a big man there. I think that they are obviously making a push for to be competitive in what appears to be a not overly competitive East. I think this makes a lot of sense to do that with Horford going to Atlanta. So let me know your thoughts on any of those in the comments or in the chat if you are watching live, because I think I nailed it 5 for 5, but most people probably wouldn't. As I've said before, we are streaming this live on a number of different platforms. The next time we're going to go live on Twitch, probably not till next week. I'm back on radio here in Calgary on Thursday and Friday, and those are always really difficult to go live with. There is a decent chance I'll be able to go live on Saturday, but might not. So next week, for sure, we will be back live a couple more times here on YouTube, Twitch, and on Kick. So keep it locked on my social medias to find those. So that was the NBA. What about the NHL? While we keep hearing that, oh man, floodgates are going to open on a trade, bunch of stuff's going to come piling in, don't you fret. Bit a bit since we have had any kind of movement in the NHL. But again, that doesn't mean that there aren't some intriguing pieces out there. Let's look at the best landing spots for the 10 best free agents remaining in the National Hockey League as we get into some hockey talk. NHL free agency has slowed down, but that doesn't mean it's over, as there are still some intriguing options out there for teams to take a look at. So let's look at the 10 that I think could be interesting across the league right now. Coming in at number 10, Jan Rutta, 34-year-old depth defenseman. I think that there are a few teams. I mean, look, every team needs depth on the blue line. I think one that could be interesting is the Dallas Stars. As they look to fill their roster out with some cheaper options, I think Rutta could be that. So I think that he fits there pretty well. That would be kind of the pick that I would have. Michael Carcone is up next. The left winger. Look, you could do a lot of these with this answer. I think Detroit makes all the sense in the world. Their depth struggled. He would be a good boost to speed for a team that maybe struggled in that department, but does have some quicker guys, kind of build that identity out a little bit. And again, like the high-end talent is there in Detroit. There is no questioning that. It is the depth pieces. None of them worked last year. I think they've had an okay offseason this year, and I think that would kind of round things out nicely. At number 8, it is Max Pacioretty. I think a reunion with the Leafs actually makes the most sense to me. He fit in there well. They need any kind of help scoring on the right side. So Max Pacioretty, I think that is just a match made in heaven with him and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 7, Ilya Samsonov, the goaltender. This goalie market is drying up quick, we should say. If Seattle could move one of their goalies out, he would be that would be a great landing spot for him. Like Edmonton, if you are looking for goalie help, I think you want a little bit more reliable than that. I think you're just kind of moving out one problem for another. So I would say that one doesn't necessarily work. If Seattle could find any way to get out from the goalie issues and the goalie contracts that they currently have on their roster, that would be very beneficial to this team. Oh, excuse me. I'm all choked up about it. Coming in at number 6, it is Matt Grzelcyk, left-handed defenseman. Again, just a solid left-handed D option. I think that he would be a pretty good fit with the Anaheim Ducks. They have some young defensemen on the left side that they feel excited about and that they should feel excited about. I think that he would be someone, maybe he doesn't start right away, but he's someone that is there if one of the defensemen has a bit of a wobble. He would be a very good veteran defenseman for those kids to learn from as well. And if one of them isn't ready for a spot and some kind of changes need to be made, he can fit right in and you feel very comfortable about him in your lineup. So I think Grzelcyk works with a young, aspiring team like the Anaheim Ducks. Take Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go. You can find us in podcast form on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And we are on YouTube as well. If you are watching this on YouTube either live or watching it after the fact, make sure you hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of this fantastic analysis from Couch Potato Diary. Coming in at number 5 on the best landing spots in the NHL for the free agents that remain, it is Robbie Fabry, the center. I think that this is a good center option for a couple of teams up here in the north that could need it. I would say the Toronto Maple Leafs still need some center depth. I think that could work for them. And I think the Winnipeg Jets, I know that they went out and acquired Jonathan Toews to try to fix that problem. They do have some depth centers, and so maybe Fabry just kind of adds to what you already have out there. But I think that still depth is needed, a little bit more offensive oomph. Not that he provides a ton, but I think that could be a very good option as well. Number 4, Joel Kurivanta. I think that this is another depth player that the Red Wings should be adding. I think that this is kind of an underrated depth piece out in the free agent market right now. We've talked about it before. I think the Red Wings desperately need that. I can also see the Ducks going in that direction as well and just really solidifying things behind an exciting young core, and they still have the cap space to be able to do it. At number 3, it's Luke Kunin, the center. He had his best work with the Wild. The Wild need depth at center. I think this is a good marriage. I think that is one of the easier ones that we have on here. Victor Olofsson comes in next. I could see him wanting to go be big stat, bad team guy with the San Jose Sharks. He is kind of turned into a bit of a power play merchant, I guess, where he really feeds with the man advantage. I still think there is a little bit of something there with this particular player, and so I think that being a depth option for the Colorado Avalanche, where they are kind of perpetually up against the salary cap. They have made a few moves to try to free some things up to maybe go get a certain guy out in Pittsburgh, but I think Victor Olofsson with Colorado kind of helped them out in a depth role. I think that one works for them. And at number 1, it is Jack Roslovic. I'm surprised that this is a player that is still available. He is easily the biggest impact guy that is out there. There's been a lot of buzz about him going to Toronto and kind of helping out with the situation out there. I could see Washington making a push to kind of add him in a bit of a secondary role for a team that was very good a season ago. I could also see the Hurricanes circling back. Like, I know that they've made a ton of moves this offseason. They still have a bunch of cap space, and he's still an effective player with that team. I think that that one makes the most sense. So I could see him landing with the Carolina Hurricanes. So those are the what I think are the best fits for the free agents that are out there right now. In the chat, we have, again, AJ Druid. Hopefully I'm saying all that right, by the way, AJ. Appreciate it, but appreciate the chats. Edmonton needs more than goalie help. That, AJ, is very fair. 100% agree with you on that. Again, I haven't liked Edmonton's offseason at all. And now look, if you go back and watch these types of videos from last offseason, I'm saying the same thing. And they went to the Stanley Cup final. So there is but so much you can criticize, but no, you are right. They do need help in a depth scoring rule. You know, like guys who we talked about here, Curry Vonta would be, oh my gosh. That would be massive if they could do that. They so desperately need help on the blue line, and goalie is an upgrade that is needed. So yeah, AJ, I agree with you that goalie isn't the only thing that they need help with. But it is still a need that they would have. And like, I don't think Samsonov just absolutely locks that in necessarily. But I do think that, like, maybe it's an upgrade, but I think that they would be, you're right. If that's the move you're going to make, just save those bullets in the chamber for later and go to a different move that maybe makes a little bit more sense and help things out. And also saying that you're good with the username, by the way. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. All right. So those are what we're talking about free agents wise. If you want to keep the hockey talk going, we can. I am going to pivot to something else. But if you want to keep the hockey going, throw them in the chats. And if you're watching this after, make sure that you put it in the comments, and I will try to get to it as quickly as possible. And while you're there, like, you go down and click on comment. If you scroll up, your mouse is right there anyway. Hit that share button. Share this with a couple of friends, a couple people you don't like. If I'm proving an argument right for you, if you've had deep intellectual conversations about Matt Grzelcyk to the Ducks and really want to prove that point, send this video to them. Like I said before, a couple of people you don't like, just to throw them off a little bit, but help spread the word of Couch Potato Diary. Really trying to grow this thing and make a big push with Couch Potato, and you guys can help a lot if you go out and share this, like the video as well. Let's now pivot to the Canadian Football League as we head into week 9 in the CFL, and there is again a new team at the top of the power rankings, which was very difficult to come to because it is just an absolute jam at the top of the Canadian Football League. So let's try to make sense of it as we go through this week's power rankings. Look, I know CFL talk isn't for everyone. Our intros for it are bangers enough that it's worth just hanging around for the CFL talk. It is week 9 in the Canadian Football League as July comes to a close, which means we're just a few weeks away from Labor Day, which is when things really start to pick up, which is good because I need to know what to think of this league because it is so tight right now in the Canadian Football League. The first two, these are easy to figure out. The rest was a little bit difficult. So let's get into it. At 9, it is the Ottawa Redblacks. I know everyone rushes to throw Edmonton down here. They beat Ottawa, so that kind of does it for me. That these guys have... Now, I know you can't just do CFL math that way because then Ottawa is ahead of Calgary, but that was a downpour game, and Calgary has more than made up for it. Neither of these teams have done anything to make you feel any differently since that game, so I've kind of just been defaulting to Ottawa in last, and that's where I'm going to stay for now. At number 8, Edmonton. When the best thing we can say about you is, hey, you beat the only team worse than you. Not great. This was probably their best game of the season against Saskatchewan, at least defensively. They really limited what the Riders could do and played a pretty good football game. Still not good enough to beat, like, the 50% effort that Saskatchewan put out in that one. At 7, it's the BC Lions. This is becoming more and more concerning. I think that there was this assumption that, okay, Nathan Rourke's going to be here and we're going to be good. They spent a lot on the cap to bring him in, and then didn't spend a whole lot in helping to protect him. And I made this joke on 960 this week. A lot of my notes have Nathan Rourke very good at scrambling. I think he would like to prove that a little less, though, because he is on the run kind of always. So I have BC down at number 7. The loss against Saskatchewan, 33-27, is very, very kind to them. The Riders, pardon my language, whooped that ass and basically just did what they do, foot off the gas, and let the Lions back into it. Hamilton, they were able to do basically anything they wanted to in that game, and save for one of the best interceptions you will ever see, it probably ends up being even more one-sided tilt. So I have big concerns about the BC Lions. Coming in at number 6 are the Toronto Argonauts. Yes, Zach Collaros was beat up for that game, but he played the first half and they shut him down entirely. So I have to give them at least a little bit of credit for that dub. And so that is why they get the spot over the BC Lions right now. So I have Toronto coming in at 6. It's a surprise from AJ, who is saying, whoa, BC at number 7. Yeah, no, like I know we're surprised with Toronto moving up above there on this one, but I just think that to be able to do that in the first half still against Winnipeg, that needs to be rewarded. So they get a bit of a bump this week. Coming in at number 5, it is Winnipeg. Zach Collaros will not be starting for them this week, so there are big concerns there. I had them in the top half of the power rankings for most of the season. It has been a bit of a struggle over the last couple of weeks, so they now move down in those rankings. Before we get to the top half of my power rankings this week, again, one more time, want to remind you guys, if you missed anything or just want to hear this again and again, the show is available in podcast form on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming in at number 4, it is the Calgary Stampeders. That was a frustrating loss, I think, for them. And part of it, too, is that I just think teams ahead of them are playing some pretty good football. I respect a lot of what Calgary has done, but I do also think you have to take into account injuries are piling up for this team, and when you're looking at the teams ahead of them, aside from one, they're quite a bit healthier than they are right now. Calgary's still a very good team and could end up at the top of the league very easily. A win this week against Ottawa, probably I'm putting you there, but a win in the next couple of weeks, and they are right back at it. This isn't a knock on Calgary. It is more a statement of the teams ahead of them than the teams that are below them. I will say that, I guess. Coming in at number 3, this was the one where I found I differed quite a bit from other people doing these things. I have Hamilton at number 3. 5-game winning streak, they've been fantastic. Full marks for all of that. And I don't want to go through and, they only beat this team. They only beat this team. But they beat Montreal when Davis Alexander was hurt. They whooped Toronto. They whooped on BC, who we are starting to have big concerns about anyway. They beat Ottawa, and I forget what the other one was. But I think they're playing great. I have you can go back and look at my best bets with 3 down. At week 1, I took Bo to win MOP, which is looking great. And I took Bo over 4,500 yards. He might get that this weekend. Hyperbole, obviously. But he is looking very, very good right now. And the defense is better than what I thought it was. I still can't put them at number 1, though. I need to see what they look like against some of the kind of top teams in the Canadian Football League. AJ, I completely agree with you. They have been good. But I can't put them ahead of a couple of teams here. At number 2, there's probably some bias in this. I have the Saskatchewan Roughriders at number 2. So for the people on the Facebook comments of my Rider thoughts from 3 down, this is to make up for it, I guess. It was an ugly performance against Edmonton last week. And yes, Calgary kind of beat them up a couple of weeks before that. But I still, when you look at what this team can do offensively with Trevor Harris and just a boatload of exciting young receivers, with AJ Ouellette, who can be a wrecking ball, that offensive line is starting to show some holes but can be pretty good. The defensive line was dominant against Edmonton and has been very good all season long. And the secondary, while showing some holes, has also been pretty good for the most part this season. I still think this is a pretty complete team. I do wish that some of the wins would be more convincing, and as the season goes along, your two most convincing wins being over BC is looking less impressive. But I still think that when you look at a team that can play complete football, this is one of those teams. They're well coached. They have a ton of talent all over the field. I feel like Saskatchewan still with a bit of a grind, but a win this week, kind of getting back on track. So I like this one a lot for them. And coming in at number 1, if you can do the math, figure it out, it is the Montreal Alouettes. It's a great win for them this week over Calgary. And again, I know Calgary was beat up. Vernon Adams played most of that game, and they did as good a job as anyone has of shutting them down. And I have said before, when everyone is healthy, if you could just go Madden style and just take all the injuries away, Montreal is the most complete team in the Canadian Football League. And I still think that has to matter for something. To be able to come out of Calgary with a win, with your backup quarterback in and your best receiver not playing, that's a very strong win. You have to remember how good this defense is. They are extremely well coached all over the field. And so when you have these teams all kind of balled up, Montreal, Saskatchewan, Hamilton, Calgary, Winnipeg, I put all of them kind of in the same tier almost right now. And I think Montreal, coming off of that win over Calgary, just gets the nod at number 1 this week. So looking in the chat, I think AJ disagreed with basically every one of my picks except for Ottawa, but which is fine. That's what these are here for discussion, for disagreement. It is totally okay. I enjoy the conversation, but yeah, I just think Montreal, a complete team. Saskatchewan, you would wish it would look a little bit better and a little bit more convincing against teams that it should look convincing against, but they are still picking up wins, and they are, for the most part, like when it goes well for them, like their good looks better than basically everyone else's good except for Calgary so far this season. Like when it is really clicking, this is a very difficult team to stop. They just don't put it together for the full 60 minutes, as they say, as much as they should. So that is why I have them as high as I do, but a lot could change in the rankings this week. Let me know what you think down in the comments, in the chat as well. Like I said, AJ, really do appreciate it, and I am enjoying the conversation that we are having here. And yeah, to AJ's point, we have the top 2 teams on this power ranking anyway, going at it on Saturday with the Riders taking on the Montreal Alouettes. So really looking forward to that game, and looking forward to seeing where everyone is at. And then, no man, I'm shocked. Again, like I've said this before, but like we get, once the games are done at 3 down, we get a picks doc to fill out, and doing that, and I kind of like just see where everyone's at after I filled mine out. It's like, oh, I am different on some of these, and so I think this week will kind of be a little bit good. It's kind of like what do they call it in golf? It's moving week instead of moving day. It's moving week. Let's see. Really, where does everyone kind of stack up here? It is East versus West, I think, in all 4 games in the CFL this week, so very interested to see where everyone kind of lines up here. But yeah, keep the notes coming, whether it's in the comments or in the chat. I really do appreciate it. And like I've said before, a lot of things change here at Couch Potato Diary, so make sure you keep it locked on my social medias. I'm at Primetime Klein on X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and on Blue Sky. Get your updates on everything that is going on with Couch Potato Diary. That is going to do it for the podcast today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. How good does this Calgary Cannons hat look? Come on. You can get that now over at seaofdead403.ca. Also, if you need fuel for your next gaming session, I already put the link in the chat. You can find the link in to everything that we talk about in the show notes, whether it's podcast or on YouTube. But head over to swiftenergy.gg. We got 2 days of wrestling coming up. Like AJ said, we got some great football coming up this weekend. The Stamps are playing on Thursday. There's a doubleheader on Saturday with wrestling that's happening. So there's a lot to cover in with your eyes, and you need that focus, you need that energy. Check out swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PK Primetime. If you're listening to this in podcast form later, make sure you hit subscribe and the follow button and leave a review. Helps out the podcast a lot. If you are watching this on YouTube or Dailymotion, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button, like the video, and share it with as many people as possible. Talk about the social medias. I'm at Primetime Klein everywhere. next stream, I am hoping to do one on Saturday, but I guarantee you we'll be back next week anyway. So like I said, keep it locked on my social medias and hit that bell button so you know that when we are going live again. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. I will talk to all of you later. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.